Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Tzadik Vov Amud Beis, 5 lines from the bottom. The Gemara previously told us that Zerika, when a person throws an object from one reshus to another reshus, he's going to be chai for the malacha of hoitzah. It's a told of malaches hoitzah. Hoitzah itself, when a person takes an object and he transfers it by walking from reshus hayochid and puts it into the reshus harabim, he's going to be chayiv chatos as a malacha that's an av malacha. In the opposite direction, if we were to be machnis the object from the reshus harabim to the reshus hayochid, it's a tolda of malaches hoitzah. The Gemara also explained when it comes to then a person who takes an object and he walks daled amos in the reshus harabim, or he throws the object daled amos in the reshus harabim, he's also going to be chayiv as a tolda from malaches hoitzah. The Gemara brought, according to one opinion, that the Mekoishesh, the one who was Mechalel Shabbos, is a remarkable fact. Only once in the entire 40-year sojourn in the desert, there was one incident of being Mechalel Shabbos. There was one man who was a Mekoishesh who gathered wood, and he was Mechalel Shabbos. There's a machlokes, what did he do? And one opinion says that he was Ma'avir Daled Amos in the Reshus Harabim. The Gemara now wants to identify who is this Mekoishesh. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanon Mekoishesh Zet Slofchad. The Mekoishesh is identified as Slofchad. V'chein hu oimer. And similarly, it says in the pasuk, I'll quote you the entire pasuk, Vayu b'nei Yisrael b'midbar, vayimtzu ish Mekoishesh eitzim b'yom haShabbos. When Klal Yisrael was in the midbar, they found a Mekoishesh eitzim, gathering the wood on Shabbos. Says the Gemara, Ulahalon hu oimer, in regards to the B'nai Tzlofchad who approached Moshe about getting a Yerusha, an inheritance of the land. The pasuk said, I'll read it in its entirety, Avinu meis ba'midbar, our father died in the midbar in the desert. V'hu lo chaya b'soich ha'eda, ha'no'adim al Hashem ba'adas karach. He was not involved in the rebellion of Korach. Ki bechet oy meis, ubanim lo hayu loy. In his chet, he died, but he didn't have any children, any sons. And we are our daughters, and therefore we want the inheritance of the land. Says the Gemara, Mala halon slofchod, afkan slofchod. Just as their father, of course, was slofchod, so too when it says Bamidbar, they found a man in the midbar. They killed him because he's Mechalel Shabbos. It was referring to Tzlofchad. Div Rabbi Akiva. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Amru lo Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Ben Beseira, Yehuda ben Beseira said to his colleague Rabbi Akiva, Akiva, bein kach u bein kach ato osi litein es hadin. Either way, you're going to then have to deal with judgment for your statement. Because im kidevarecha, if what you said is true, haTorah kisesoy va'ato megala oisoy. The Torah keeps it hidden that this Mekoishesh was Slofchad, and you are coming to reveal it. V'im lav ata moitzi laz al oisay tzadik. And if it's not true what you're saying, then you're going to bring moitzi laz on Slofchad because he wasn't indeed the Mekoishesh. Ve'eloha gamar gzeir shava. We're on top of Tzadik Zayin Amud Aleph. Rather, you'll say you learned it from a Gezeira Shava. Gezeira Shava Lagomar. We don't have a Gezeira Shava about this. Ella, says Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, Mehecha Hava. From where was he indeed? Did he die? Because it says in the pasuk that we quoted before, Bi bechetoi meis. What was the chet that he died for? If not Mekoishesh, says Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, Meva'a Yapilu Hava. This is referring to after the Chet HaMeraglim in Parsha Shlach, Klal Yisrael had tremendous remorse that they didn't have true bitachon in Hashem to conquer the land, and they were mekabil the dibara of the Meraglim, and therefore they wanted to show their enthusiasm. Subsequently, after there was a magefa, and after they were given the gezeira that everyone was going to die in the midbar over the next 40 years, and only their children will enter Eretz Yisrael, with enthusiasm, they then went up to the mountain to then try to fight against the Knainim and the Amalekim. However, it was without HaKadosh Baruch Hu's permission. And therefore, they died. So he was one of them who died amongst this fight against the Amalekim and the Bnei Knainim. So although he was choyte, it wasn't such a chet as what Rabbi Akiva had said. Kayoytze badovar ata oimer. In a similar thing you say, Vayichar af Hashem bom vayelach. The pasuk says that Kadosh Baruch Hu was angry with them, referring to Aharon and Miriam. Melamed shaf Aaron nitztara di Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says this comes to teach us the fact that Kadosh Baruch Hu was angry at them. Not only did Miriam have tzaras, but also Aaron HaKohen was stricken with tzaras. Again, Omar lo Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says to Rabbi Akiva, his colleague, Akiva, ben kach u ben kach ato osid liten es hadin. Im kidevarecha hatar kisav ato megalo. If your words are indeed correct, the Torah chose to hide this fact that Aaron had saras, and you're coming to them reveal it. V'imat lav atamotzi laz al oiset tzadik. And if it's not true what you're saying, then you're being motzi laz and Aaron HaKohen. Ve'elo dichsiv bom. Rather, that which it says, bom, that Kadosh Baruch Hu was angry with them, it means hahu menezifa ba'alma. That Kadosh Baruch Hu was angry at the two of them, at Miriam and at Aaron. But doesn't mean that Aaron had tzaras. Says the Gemara, Tanya Kiman de Omar Af Aaron Itztar. We have a brisa that also supports what Rabbi Akiva said, that even Aaron had tzaras. Dechsiv Vayifen Aharon el Miriam v'hinei tzaras. The pasuk says that Aaron turned, and behold, he saw that Miriam had tzaras. Says the brisa Tano Shepona mitziarosoi. When he turned, it meant he turned away from having his tzaras. He was healed from his own tzaras, and then he beheld his sister Miriam that still had tzaras. Says the Gemara, Marish Lakish, Hachoyshe b'ksherim loike begufoi. If a person is going to suspect ksherim, then he's going to get loike begufoi. Says Rabbi Rish Lakish Dichsiv, he brings a pasuk. Vehein lo ya'aminu li. When Moshe Rabbeinu was approached by HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the sneh, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I want to send you to be the Shliach HaGeula and tell Klal Yisrael that the Geula is going to then come. Moshe Rabbeinu says, they're not going to believe me. They're not going to believe that you appeared to me, and they're not going to believe in what I'm saying. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, V'gali kame kuchabichu de mehemne Yisrael. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it was revealed before him that Klal Yisrael did have indeed the emunah in Hashem, and they would indeed trust that Moshe Rabbeinu was sent by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Omar loy, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe, Hein ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim. Klal Yisrael, they are ma'aminim, and they're children of forefathers that are ma'aminim. V'ata ein soifcha lahamin, and you at the end, you will not be ma'amin. What is it referring to? Says the Gemara to explain. Hein ma'aminim, they, Klal Yisrael, are ma'aminim. Dichsiv, it says in the pasuk, Vaya'amin ha'am. Indeed, after Moshe Rabbeinu was sent by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he came to Klal Yisrael Mitzrayim, it says that they had emunah. The nation had emunah in that which Moshe Rabbeinu was sent by Hashem, and that there was going to be an ensuing geula. B'nei ma'aminim, the children of ma'aminim, referring to Avram Avinu, who was childless, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, go out and look at the sky. You see all of these stars? Try to count these stars. Those are going to be like your children, that you won't be able to be able to count them. And then it says in the pasuk, Vayehemin b'Hashem, and he trusted in Hashem. So these are bnei ma'aminim, that are children, ma'aminim that are bnei ma'aminim, that are children of ma'aminim. Ato hein ein soifcha lahamin, shenemar says, Ya'an lo hemantem bi. In regards to the Mei Meriva, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu to speak to the rock, and he hit the rock. And indeed, the pasuk says, Ya'an lo hemantem bi, because you and Aaron did not have emunah in me, then you will not enter the land. Memai de loka, what was it indeed that he was loka with? It says, Hachoshe b'kshem loike begufay. What was he loka? What was he stricken with? Dirshu, it says in the pasuk, I read the entire pasuk. The pasuk says, Vayomer Hashem loi oid haveino yodcha b'cheikecha v'yove yode b'cheikoi. Hashem says, instructs Moshe Rabbeinu to put his hand in his chest. Vayotzia v'hinei yodoi mitzaras kasholeg. And behold, his hand was stricken with tzaras, like snow. So the pasuk says that indeed he was stricken with tzaras because he was choshe b'kesherim with Bnei Yisrael who were ma'aminim, and he said they will not be ma'amin. Says the Gemara, Vayter Amar Rava v'tem Rabbi Yosi bar Bechanino moi mida toiva mimaheres lova midas puronus. A mida tova comes quicker than that which is midas puronus. Dilu b'midas puronus ksiv. In regards to puronus, it's written, Vayotzia v'hinei yada mitzaras kasheleg, as we quoted before. And he took out his hand, and then behold, his hand was stricken with leprosy. V'ilu b'mida toiva, in regards to mida tova ksiv, it's written in this event, Vayotziu mechekoi v'hinei shava kibsara. Here it adds a superfluous word, mechekoi. When he took out his hands, mecheko, says the Gemara, mecheko hu deshava kibsar. Even in its chek, when his hand was still inside of his bosom, then it already turned back to them being healed from the tzaras. The pasuk now, the Gemara now brings, vayivla moit mata Aaron es matoisom. The staff of Aaron swallowed the matos of Paroi and his servants. Omer Rabbi Elazar, neis b'toich neis. It was a neis b'toich neis. Not only was it a snake that could have been a neis that swallowed the other snakes, but indeed it turned back into a mate, and the mate itself swallowed up all of the other matos. The connection between the previous is not clear to me. Maybe it's because we just spoke about the sign of not being mamin and the tzaras which was ensuing as a result of the lashon hara. Maybe the snake also, which was also a sign of the dibara, of the lashon hara that Moshe Rabbeinu said against Klal Yisrael. Says the Gemara Vayter, now quoting our Mishnah, Merishus HaYachid L'Rishus HaYachid V'chulei. The Mishnah says there's a machlokes when a person throws an object from the Rishus HaYachid to another Rishus HaYachid with a Rishus HaRabim in between. Boi Rabba had the following question: Lemata me'asora pligi? Are they arguing about less than asara tfachim when the object goes within asara tfachim of the Rishus HaRabim in between? Because again, higher than asara tfachim is not considered to be a Rishus HaRabim. So it enters the Rishus HaRabim, ubeha pligi, and they're arguing the following: the Mar Sovar Aminon Kluta Kamal Huncha. Rabbi Akiva holds that Kluta Kamal Huncha means that the object, when it was in mid-air within the Esar Tfachim of the Rishus HaRabim, it's as if it landed. Umar Savar Lo Yamin Kluta Kamal Huncha Dam Kamal Huncha. And the Chachamim don't hold of this principle, and therefore they say it's potter. Aval lemalo me'asara divrei hakol potter. But if it was, an object that went only above the asar tfachim, then everybody, including Rabbi Akiva, would say it's potter. V'lo yafina zorek mi Moshe, because we don't learn zorek from Moshe. Meaning to say that when it came to the agolos, when they would dismantle the Mishkan, so they would put the kroshim in the back to agolos, and then they would load from the back to agolos to the front to agolos. And there was a Rishus HaRabim in between. However, the agolos, which is a Rishus HaYachid, they'd have to then put it over Asara Tfachim to get from one agola to another agola. So therefore, Moishit, we learn from there as a precedent, would be Chayiv. However, do we learn that also to Zrika? Over here, according to this stad, that we don't learn Zrika from Moishit, and therefore everybody would agree that would be Potter. Or Dilma, or perhaps Lamala Me'asar Pligi. In this itself is a machloikis, whether you learn Zrika from Moishet. Ubahapligi, the Marsav Yalfin Zorik mi Moishit, Umarsav lo Yalfin Zorik mi Moishit. That Rabbi Akiva does learn Zorek from Moishit, and therefore he would say Chayiv, even though it goes above Asar Tzvachim, because that's what the precedent we learned from Moishit was. Whereas the Chachamim don't learn Zorek from Moishit. Aval lamata me'asar divra kol chayiv. But if it was less than Asar Tzvachim, everybody agreed, even according to the Chachamim, that you would be Chayiv. My time, what's the reason? Because kluka kamashim shehun chadamya, that everybody holds that if the object that is in mid-air, that comes with it, whether it comes within the Rishus HaRabim, would be considered as if it landed in the Rishus HaRabim. And therefore, even the Chacham would agree with Rabbi Akiva, according to this tzad, that you would be chayiv. Omar Rav Yosef, Hamilsa iboyle leRav Chisda. This was a question, this matter was a question, indeed, that was presented to Rav Chisda. Upashtani le Rav Hamnuna meho. And Rav Hamnuna, he resolved this question with the following brayso: Mirishus hayachid rishus hayachid ve'oive rishus harabim atzma. When it goes from one rishus hayachid to another rishus hayachid through a rishus harabim itself. So this lotion of atzma itself becomes clear that we're talking about within asar tfachim. Rabbi Akiva mechayiv v'chachamim poitrim. The brayso says it's a machlokes Rabbi Akiva and chachamim. Rabbi Akiva says chayiv and chacham say poiter. Mideka'omar b'rishus harabim atzma pshita lamata me'asora pligi. The fact that it says rishus harabim atzma, it indicates we're talking about within the asara tfachim. So we're talking about over here the same machlokes that indeed we are suggesting before the first tzad above, that when they throw within asara tfachim, that itself is a machlokes. Uvemai. How do we know this? Ilema b'ma'avir lamata me'asara hu de mechayev. Lamala me'asara lo mechayev. We're saying that, indeed, if you want to say that when he walks, when he were to then transfer by going within asar tfachim, then he would be chayev, but higher than asar tfachim, he wouldn't be chayev. V'omar Rabbi Elazar said, "Hamoitzi masoi lamala me'asara chayev." If a person is transferring, we're talking about somebody who's walking now, not throwing. He's walking from Rishus HaYachid into the Rishus HaRabim, and the object is on his shoulders, and it's going higher. It goes down, and it is raised higher than Asar Tzfachim from the ground. So he'd be chayiv, like the Gemara learned out before from Bnei Kahos. Shekein Masa Bnei Kahos. So we can't be talking about a person who's walking. Elalab bezorek. We must be talking about somebody who's throwing the object. Ulamate me'asar hu de mechayiv. And less than Asar Tzfachim, we see that he would be chayiv. Lamala me'asar lo mechayiv. Whereas above 10 Tfachim would not be chayiv. Shmamina bekluto kemashu huncha pligi. Indeed, we can conclude that the machlokes in Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim is whether we say kluta kamisha huncha or not. According to Rabbi Akiva, when it's thrown within Asar Tfachim, then it's as if the object lands in the Rishus HaRabim, and therefore he's chayiv. According to Chachamim, we don't say that, and therefore he's poter shmamina. Upliga de Rabbi Elazar, and this argues on what Rabbi Elazar said somewhere else. The Omar Rabbi Elazar mechayiv higher Rabbi Akiva afilu malami asara. Rabbi Akiva is mechayiv even though it's higher than Asar Tfachim. V'hai diktani Rishus HaRabim atzma lo dicha koichan derabban. That which is said that Rishus HaRabim atzma, which we brought from the Brisa before, he explains it to mean to show the koyach of the Rabban that even there it's going to be potter. Uplika de Rabbi Chilkiya bar Tuvi, and indeed this also argues on Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar will be arguing Rabbi Chilkiya bar Tuvi. The Omar Rabbi Chilkiya bar Tuvi toich shloisha divra kol chayv. If it's within 3 tfachim of the ground of the Rishus HaRabim, it's part of the Rishus HaRabim. We say lavud. Lamala me'asara divra kol potter. But if it's higher than asar tfachim, everybody would agree that it's potter. Migim vad asara bonu machuz Rabbi Akiva rabbanon. But between 3 tfachim and asar tfachim, then that's the machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim. So we see again, this is different from Rabbi Elazar. And this is the way we explain the machlokes above. Tanya mihachim, we have a brisa indeed like this. Mitoich dale, mitoich gimel divra kol chayev. If it's within 3 tfachim of the ground, then it's considered to be part of the ground, part of the Rishus HaRabim, and it's going to be chayev. Lemala me asara eno ela mishum shvus. If it's higher than asar tefachim, it's not considered part of the reshus harabim, and it'll be a shvus. Be also drabanan. V'imhayu reshus shelo puter. If it's higher than asar tefachim, and he's throwing from one reshus to another reshus of his own reshus, it means that it's both his reshuyos. Then it's going to be muter lechatchila if he owns both. Let's say chatzeros. Migimel ve'ad asara. Rabbi Akiva Chai v'chacham potim. But if it's between Gimel and Asar Tfachim, that's the machloikis that we saw before between Rabbi Akiva and the Chacham. So again, this is indeed the way we explain the machloikis above, and only Rabbi Elazar is the one that is cholik. Omar Mar. Mar brings back the same that we just said. Im hoyu reshuyoy shaloi mutar. If indeed the two reshuyos belong to him, they're two, let's say, of his own chatzeros, and he throws from one to another over the Reshus Harabim, over Asar Tfachim of the Reshus Harabim, then it's muter lechatchila. Leima tabe tiyuvda de Rav. Let us suggest that this is a refutation on Rav. The itmar shnei batim mishnei tzidei Reshus Harabim. If a person has two houses on opposite parts of the Reshus Harabim, Rabba bar Rav Huna Amar Rav Osir Lizroik Mizelizah. He said it's prohibited to throw from one house to the other house over the Reshus Harabim. Ushmul Amar muter lizrok mizelizeh. And Shmuel says that it's muter to throw from one to the other that is owned by the same person. V'lav mi ukimno lahi kigon de midli chad. So the Gemara now wants to say this is a refutation against Rav, to which the Gemara answers and is doiche by saying no. V'lav mi ukimno lahi kigon de midli chad umetate chad. Aren't we talking about where one of the roofs is high while the other roof is low? And therefore, when he throws the object from one roof to the other roof, so there's a concern that maybe it will fall into the Reshus Harabim in between, whereby the owner will then go and then take the object, pick it up from the Reshus Harabim, losing himself, meaning to say that he doesn't think. He just sees that his object didn't make it to the other roof. Then he goes to the Reshus Harabim, he picks it up, forgetting that it's Shabbos, and then he carries it from the Reshus Harabim to Reshus Yachid, whereby he'll be Chayav Achatos. That's why Rav says it's Osir. And therefore you have no raya that Rav would say that in a regular situation one cannot throw from his Reshus Yachid to his Reshus Yachid over a Reshus Harabim over Asar Tfachim. Omar le Rav Chizd Rav Hamnuna. The Gemara says, Vaite v'omar lo Rav Hamnuna Rav Chizd. There's two versions, whether Rav Chizd said to Rav Hamnuna or vice versa. Rav Hamnuna said to Rav Chizd, Menohan milsa, dom rabban kol pachas migimo kilavu dami. Where do we know this matter that within 3 tfachim of the Reshus Harabim we say lavud, and it's considered to be part of the Reshus Harabim if it's less than 3 tfachim? Omar le lefi she'i efshar lo l'Reshus Harabim shetiloke b'milkat uverhitni. He says a svara, because not mistaber that the ground will be so smooth out, like these kalim would smooth it out, that it will be just a flat ground. There's always going to be bumps and little humps in the ground. Ihachi gimonami, if it's a svara, then say that 3 tfachim also. Why say only underneath 3 tfachim is lavud? Say 3 tfachim also is considered to be normal for a ground to have its bumps. Visu, and further, hodisnan, it says in the Mishnah, hamashal shel defonis melamala lamata, imhen gevoy min haaretz shlosha tfachim psulo, hapachim mishlosha kshera. In regards to the walls of a sukkah, it says you can lower a wall down to make asar tfachim, and it can be a wall that goes within 3 tfachim of the ground, and it's a viable wall. So he says, you see over here, that's not because of the reason that you said before, because the ground has humps and has bumps. That's not the reason, because over here we're talking about making a wall of a sukkah, bringing down from the above down below to then make a sukkah wall. And it can be within 3 tfachim, and that's sufficient. So you see that's considered to be closed from the wall down to the ground, as if it's part of the wall. So says the Gemara, Hasom Hainu taimo mishum dahavyala mechitzo shagadoyim boikimbo. There, in regards to the wall of the sukkah, that's different. The reason why over there, indeed, within 3 tvachim is going to be lavud and 3 tvachim would not be lavud is because the whole purpose of the wall is that they prevent gedim from walking into the sukkah. So therefore, within 3 tvachim of the ground, so gedim won't then enter. But if it's 3 tvachim or more, they would enter. So therefore, that's not a kasha. Teinach lamata. The Gemara says, okay, fine. That's very good in regards to lamata. But lamala, ma'ika lamema, what are you going to say about the concept of lava that we find even lamala? For example, let's say you have a sukkah with schach, and there's a space between the schach and the wall, an airspace. So if it's within 3 tvachim, less than 3 tvachim, it's considered to be lavud. In part, then it's not a problem of this airspace. But if indeed you say, but if it's 3 tvachim or more, then it is a problem of pastel than the wall. So therefore, the sukkah. And therefore, we see lavud even above. Ella says the Gemara, Kol pachos mishloisha kilavu dami, hilchasa gemirila. The concept of lavud that we find all over Shas is the concept that we learn halacha l'Moshe Misinai when it's within 3 tvachim, less than 3 tvachim, then it's considered to be closed. And if it's 3 tvachim or more, then it's not.